Yay.
How's everything in Sag Harbor?
Producer, editor, and we have the wonderful Rose Styron.
Oh.
Rose is over there. Is Rose going to be up here too?
They're
Oh,
saying
great.
user.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Could you all hear me? Okay.
And this is the great Susan Lacy, just so you know.
Hold on, I should know to hold the mic here, but I gotta find my, oh, there we go. Well, I absolutely love this film.
Thank you.
I mean, you took someone that most people don't know anything about, except the wife of William Styron, and you gave a completely full, complex portrait of a woman, a mother, a wife, an activist, and kept her in the spotlight, despite the fact that in the background there is this incredibly famous person who was a huge part of, I mean, the driving force in her life. And
Or the other way around.
or the other way around, I know. But I'm just curious. I know you've talked about this, but not here, and a little bit in this film. But what made you want to make this film, besides the fact that she was an incredibly interesting, delightful person to be around? Did you know you were always going to make a film?
No, not particularly. I just had a new camera, and Rose invited me to lunch. And Rose is a star on the island of Martha's Vineyard. Let me tell you. And she knows everyone. Everyone knows her, and I just didn't know her, and I was feeling very left out. And finally, she said, "James, come over for lunch," and I was so grateful to be in the in crowd for 10 seconds. And I brought my camera, and no, I didn't know what it was going to be. And then Miky and I, who had done another film together, it's sort of there in the film. I just kept making it, and then we got a little money from HBO to make it into a short. And then 5 years later, we were still shooting, and there was no way it was going to be a short with 22 hours of footage. So that's just kind of how it all came to be.
And those are the days when you could do that at HBO.
Exactly.
Those days might be over, who knows. But so they were very understanding about the fact that you had something much richer than a 40-minute short.
Well, and then we put together, to make a series. I was trying to figure out how to do this, and that didn't go over too big. So we were left on our own to kind of just jump in and make the movie, which is what we did. And it was hard to do as a series, and hard to do because I did it over such a long period of time that Rose would talk about the same subjects, but in different years, wearing different clothes. And it's like, I got nobody to cut to because it was just me and a camera. So trying to figure out, and that's why he's such a genius over there. His editing is so miraculous because you're not aware of that when you watch it.
I did want to ask you, did you ever, I know you conceived of this. This is this is your My Dinner with Andre film.
Yeah, exactly.
But were you ever tempted to interview anyone else? The kids, for example?
I love it. I could interview anybody. I mean, I love talking to people, but no, I haven't thought of doing it again, frankly.
No, I meant for this film. Did you?
Oh, yes. I'm
think-
sorry, I didn't know what you meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rose and I got in a car and drove around one day, and we went to Carly Simon's house, and but I didn't really want to interview anybody because then you kind of open a can of worms, and then I have to interview Rose's kids, and and the only reason the grandchildren are there is I just happened to have the camera, and they were on the lawn, and I said, hey, come on over and sit down and ask your grandmother questions. So they're the only other people in the movie.
Except you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that wasn't pleasant. That's what we ended up having to do because in order to put the movie together, I realized I had to put myself in it.
Rose, do you remember when you guys went to Carly Simon's and she serenaded you guys in the driveway? I don't think it's in the film. It's not. We had to cut it out for time. But do you remember that day?
Well, I remember the first version I saw of the film. You weren't there. It was me. And I said, what kind of company of Rose is this? Where are you? You went back and
Yeah, that was wise of you to say,
made a movie
actually.
without that.
Yeah.
So, Rose, did you think this was ever actually going to become a film?
No, of course not. I thought we were just having nice conversations and that he would bring his camera, which sometimes didn't work, or he sometimes forgot and turned it off and didn't turn it back on. And we had a lot of fun. It was always summertime, which it certainly isn't now. And we'd be outside and there'd be lots of noise and interruptions. And we were just having a good time. I didn't think a movie would ever be made. I thought I was indulging his camera.
So, I did think you were remarkably candid in these conversations. You were remarkably candid in these
Oh, yes.
conversations.
Because I thought these were private conversations. Believe me, I was very surprised when I saw the movie. And I told him all those things bit by bit over the years.
I actually wondered about that. You didn't have any regrets though when you saw the film, did you?
What?
Did you have any regrets about how candid you were when you saw the film?
No, I only regretted about how much I grinned all the time. Wish I'd looked a little serious sometimes.
I have to tell you, when I showed the movie to Rose, I was really nervous, and it was over, and I said, "Okay, Rose, what do you think?" And she says, "Well, I think it's a terrific movie. I just wish it were about someone else."
I sure felt that way. I was incredibly embarrassed when I saw the first version of it. And I continue to be embarrassed because it's about me and I keep grinning all the time. But otherwise, I think that James is not only a friend, but he's a genius. And I'm very, very flattered that he did a film about me.
Well, you were very lucky to have James and Miky. I mean,
Miky as well, yeah.
I was very struck by, and I think this is probably a big contribution from you, that you found a way. I mean, this almost feels like you're unfolding a book, with chapters, and the graphics certainly help a great deal with that. And was that a concept from the beginning, that this was kind of a sketches book in a way, a sketches movie, right? That helped to bridge the narrative gaps?
I would like to say yes, but the answer is no. I don't know how to. What we had.
we there were natural when we started we started looking at everything. There were just natural beats that we wanted to see formed. So I would be curious about a conversation, and I would build that into a little sequence, and we'd look at it and say, okay, and we'd put that aside, and then we'd go on to the next one, and eventually you start to have all of these pieces. And one of the brilliant things about working with James is he can look at all of them and start to say, let's try this as an order. And he might suggest a narrative thread to start with, and then I would try it and maybe not agree and move it around. And I mean, we spent the first half of COVID on Zoom editing together. It was like almost a daily ritual, I think.
And that's so hard. That's so hard to do.
So hard.
Remotely that way.
Yeah.
I as a documentary filmmaker myself, I know what it is to do that many hours of interviews with someone. I think when I did Steven Spielberg, I did well over 40 hours. Wow. And then you have to pick and choose and, make some very hard choices. What drove the choices that you made?
Oh, that's a good question, because there was a lot of great stuff that's not in the movie. I guess it was trying to get to the essence of you, Rose. I was just trying to find a dramatic trajectory that all these little chapters would add up to a bigger picture. And I wanted to get to the heart of why you inspire people and why I kept coming back for more, because I enjoyed it and was inspired by you, and that's what I wanted an audience to feel. And so I guess that was I unconsciously what we were trying to do when we put it together. I have to also give a shout out to both the woman who did all the graphics, because the graphics are fantastic, and she's just right out of school, and I noticed a little thing she did for a friend of mine who's an author. She lives in Philadelphia, and she just got it. And the composers were also just so happy to be part of the film, and I think you really feel these women's their music being intuitive to what the movie wanted to make people feel and say.
Oh yeah, the music is wonderful, and the choices of music that are not composed are wonderful. There was something else I wanted to ask you. Oh,
well, I think, if I may, what's interesting, I wanted to ask Rose, is Rose ended up writing a book, her autobiography, after we started doing the movie, right, Rose? Because suddenly all these things were coming back to you about your life. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to look back, and I always said I wouldn't write a memoir. But then I sort of got stuck in Martha's Vineyard for 3 years during COVID. I love Martha's Vineyard, but it was not a social place, not what James has been describing. And so I had just nice yellow pages that my husband, Bill Styron, had not used. And I took a pen in my left hand and just scribbled from memory with no plan whatsoever. And it was very interesting to me how much, when you don't plan ahead, you remember about the past. I was astounded, honestly, that I could remember so much from ages 1 to 7. And I would recommend that to anybody who needs the company of their childhood in a lonely time.
Yeah. Rose, I read your memoir. I actually read your memoir before I saw this film, and I loved it. And I don't know whether you remember when we made a film about Bill for American Masters, and we came to your house in Martha's Vineyard, and you invited us to a July 4th party. And it was kind of like Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris movie. Everywhere you looked, there was another incredibly famous person. But you were so gracious to us. And then we were in Marseille together with the film. I don't know if you remember any of this. But
I don't remember specific.
Yeah, that's okay. What I didn't know about you in reading the memoir was this incredible life you had with Amnesty International. I didn't know that about you beforehand, and the dangerous situations you put yourself in constantly. Where did that bravery come from?
Stupidity. Not anticipating anything, living in the moment, enjoying going forward, being appalled from time to time when I put my children that I took with me in danger, which I had not expected. But, and of course, thinking this last 24 hours since Henry Kissinger died, how I woke up to the world and its problems, especially America's faults in the world, when I was in Chile, having taken my daughter, my 17-year-old daughter, Susanna, with me. And we had quite an experience during my first amnesty mission. And I learned about Kissinger and got a whole new view of American politics and the world.
Yes, very, very depressing, actually. We're in a depressing moment, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight.
You're not. But I remember saying that I wasn't going to say everything I knew about Henry Kissinger until he died. I'm not going to today either.
Are you sticking with that? Are you sticking with that? You're not going to say anything about
Yeah,
Henry?
I'm sticking with that because my book has come out already.
Oh, there are other ways to say it, Rose. I'd love to read that article in a magazine.
James, you obviously covered the immense number of countries that Rose went to as part of Amnesty International. But somehow the fact that she was often in serious bodily and danger, we didn't get a sense of that. Is there a reason that you did not do that in the film?
I think there's, when she talks about the Chile trip, maybe I don't know. I mean, I didn't, I felt that it was kind of there without having been dramatized or said. Just the mere fact in those days that, you even traveled there with your daughter was in and of itself, I thought, so audacious. And there are other things that are not in the movie. Rose's whole relationship to bird watching, which I
allude to, but it's so fascinating, and also one of her covers for going to these places.
But I kind of have a very short attention span because I could have made a 2-hour movie, but maybe I'll do a sequel, Rose, with the outtakes.
Oh my God.
I have to say, one of the things that I think, and when we worked on the Sondheim documentary, I think it was the same way, is that James is very interested in documenting what his subject has to say. It's very important to him that he's not as interested in all the other commentaries, the interviews. He wanted to hear Steve's point of view. And I think in this case, he let Rose tell her stories, and he didn't he made commentary about his own life and the sort of parallels and the things that he was thinking about as he was talking to her. But he wasn't trying to embellish or make it more than the sort of nature of each story as she told it. And I love that. I think it's honest and
I wanted the film to be intimate. It's a small budget movie. It was just really an intimate time that Rose and I spent together, and I didn't want to blow it up. I just thought it should stay intimate, and maybe it would have been splashier if I hadn't done that. But it's really what I wanted, an audience to feel like they were the third party at a conversation.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it feels like, except it's My Dinner with Andre, My Dinner with Rose.
That was exactly how I pitched it, because I love that movie, My Dinner with Andre. But it's not flashy.
So, do you have another movie you're working on?
Well, yeah. Now that you mention it, there's a book that I wrote about Stephen Sondheim and I. Making Sunday in the Park with George, and actually it's going to be a documentary now because I filmed all of my interviews with Sondheim as well as all the other people who were involved. So I'm not going to direct that, but I'm going to produce it, and a friend of mine's going to direct it. And then there's a play project that... Oh, sorry, Rose?
I just said I was so glad to hear that. I wondered how it was going.
Well, we have somebody to do it, so that's good. Now I guess we just have to do it. The other one is a play that I've been working on with another playwright performer, Anna DeVere Smith, about Radical Chic, which was the party Leonard Bernstein and his wife threw for the Black Panthers in 1970. And Tom Wolfe wrote this scathing article about it called Radical Chic, and we got involved in it, and we got very involved in the story of the Panthers and a woman named Afeni Shakur. I won't bore you with all the details. It's not boring, really, but so we're looking to now take what we've done and make a documentary of that. We was also during COVID, but we interviewed a lot of the Black Panthers, a lot of the people who were still around at that time, and it's a pretty fascinating time and moment and story.
Did you think it was a fair article?
Oh, I don't think there's anything fair about it. No. It was scathing, but it was entertaining. You know, that's the thing. He was an entertaining, mean writer.
No. It was mostly directed at Felicia, though, wasn't it? I mean, Lenny sort of came in at the last moment.
Oh, I think they all got it pretty good. Yeah. It's curious because there's so many layers to it that I didn't know about J. Edgar Hoover and you know, Afeni Shakur, who was one of the only two women of the Black Panthers. Her story is amazing, and I will tell it. She was 20 when she was arrested, and what they did at the Bernstein party was raise bail money for the Panthers, because the bail money was so high, like 4 times what a white person. Radicals were, they were being bailed out at $25,000, and all the Panthers had to get $100,000. But Afeni Shakur, when she was the only person who insisted on defending herself at the trial, and she got out on bail. She became head at like 22 of the Panthers in New York. She got pregnant by another man. Her husband was in jail with them, and long story short, they revoked her bail. She had to go back. She was 9 months pregnant when she gave her final summation to the jury, which was such an incredible speech. And all of the Panthers were found innocent of 136 charges. And 2 weeks later, she had a baby boy, and who she named Tupac. And she's Tupac Shakur's mother. And it's just such a kind of story that is so full circle. It's really interesting.
Oh, it sounds fascinating. Yeah. You guys out there, does anybody have a question that you'd like to ask?
Hi, I just wanted to, it's not so much a question as to say that when I was in New York, everybody knew Rose in the poetry world and admired Rose in the poetry world, and it's wonderful to see this movie, and throughout the movie, she's shown writing her poetry, and it's great. Congratulations, Rose, it's wonderful to see this.
Well, thank you very much. Who knows if I'll ever get back to poetry after looking at my past.
Any other questions for me?
Me?
Hi, thank
No.
Hi,
you.
Heather.
I'm very flattered by all.
Rose, I was in Martha's Vineyard, I think in '99, and Bill called Jules Pfeiffer up and said, you guys had just caught a bunch of bluefish, and you invited Jules and the family over for a fish fryer, and it was just so incredible. Like, Martha's Vineyard is like a big family. And I just remember feeling this incredible intimacy between the people there. And I was just wondering if you could just speak about that.
Well, it is like a big family, and it never occurred to me that I would live here permanently. It was our summer vacation when the world, including us, comes to Martha's Vineyard. But after I had a couple of teaching years at Harvard and came down on the weekends, I decided this is where I wanted to live. And it's been so rewarding, both through nature and through all the caring citizens of this wonderful island and friends who come to visit even in terrible weather. But I just made a great decision after Bill died here, and I'm never going to regret it.
So you were not living there full time. When did you start living there full time?
Oh, I've been here full time for a decade.
Yeah.
And it's been really, really interesting coming and going. But in the last 4 years, just staying here, unless I'm off on a book tour or something like that.
Well, you're-
or seeking good weather occasionally in the winter in Florida or California.
Well, your book was wonderful, and it was incredibly well received. Was the timing of the book and the film kind of a conscious thing?
No, it's totally weird that they both came out, one after the other. So it was a good fortune. But
Kind
no,
of
it was
embarrassing to see myself on all fronts at the same time.
You know, Rose, you refer to yourself quite often in the film as not being deep enough. This is totally not the case.
I second that.
I
That's
was
very
wondering if you
nice
wanted
of you to say. I still
But I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit about that. How do you deal with the subjects who constantly says, I'm not deep enough? And you know that this is an incredibly brilliant, complex human being there, which you showed.
We filmed it, for 6 years. So eventually you wear eventually these things come out.
Are there any...
I can't imagine how you managed to put all that together so that it looked like it was one conversation.
Well, it sort of was, actually, in its way. It just happened to take place over a long period of time. And it's also, I can't say this enough, the greatness of the editor who is able to just make it go from one to the next without feeling like we're skipping a beat.
It was a brilliant editing job. Thank you so much.
I think he did a great job, and the best part was getting to know James. And to have all my family around me often, and so James had to deal with them one at a time, I think. But we go into that.
And the lawnmower on the outside.
And the lawnmower, yeah. No, your family was very supportive. They were very curious why I was spending all this time with you. Maybe they thought we were having an affair, Rose. I don't know.
But Rose said she'd never had affairs.
Wish.
Did she say that?
Did. She
Well,
absolutely
she
did.
called them not affairs. Doesn't mean that she didn't have affairs. I don't know, Rose, but I'm going to leave. It's your story. It's not mine. So, however you want to see it.
Roger, you had a question over there.
Will it be shown in the public? What's the future of the film?
Oh, the future of the film is it's on. What's it on?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime and Netflix, I think, or Amazon and one other thing, Apple Plus.
Apple. I think it's on Apple.
Yeah. You think I should know this, right? But documentaries like these don't have, they have art house showings, but they're, our budget was very low, and we're lucky to get it out in the world, and I'm very proud of it. And the nice thing about movies like this is they don't go away. They will be available for folks. So spread the word. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.